I'd like to thank you all for coming out to this very meaningful event this evening. A special thanks. This evening would not be possible without the generosity and support of so many. A special thanks to Dr. Dave and Mitzi Zapato for providing home hospitality for our guests. Barb and Dave Lerman for hosting the delegation for dinner. The dedicated efforts of the Federation's Partnership Together and Bob Pfefferman. Sunnyside Presbyterian Church, represented by Pastor Susan Arner. And the Kurt and Tessie Simon Foundation. It's because of partners like these, we can bring voices and stories to our community that broaden perspectives and inspire hope. I'd like to take a moment to highlight the role of our partnership together. Tonight's event is a living example of what P2G is all about. People-to-people connections between Israelis and Americans and sharing stories that deepen that bond. Tonight's program offers a powerful example of that connection. We are especially honored to welcome Dr. Khaled Atalla, Director of Emergency Medicine at the Galilee Medical Center, and his wife Yasmin, a pulmonologist at the Rambam Hospital. The Galilee Medical Center is more than a hospital. It's a model of coexistence, a common humanity in action, and since October 7th, it has served to treat over 2,000 wounded soldiers, while at the same time serving its diverse population. It's these kind of stories that we don't often hear in the US media, and why I think it's very important for us to hear tonight. And so with my honor, I'd like to invite Dr. Pariel to the podium to introduce our keynote speaker.
Thank you. Thanks for the partnership and for everybody coming tonight. The medical folks who didn't make it missed an awesome talk at lunchtime, noon today at St. Joe Med Center that was slightly more medically oriented for those physicians, medical types. It's happening again at Memorial at 7 a.m. tomorrow if you're an early riser. But it was a fantastic talk. This one won't be there were some gruesome slides. You won't see those, I don't think. But Dr. Atalla did his medical training at Technion, where he met his wife. And then he did internal medicine, emergency medicine, a lot of training. But they live in a village in Israel that was designed for kind of coexistence. Dr. Atalla is an Arab Christian. His wife is a Muslim, and together they're taking care of all the different people in the Western Galilee of all, and those that come over from the border, sometimes unexpected, which we may hear about. So with that, thank you.
Okay, so thank you very much for the introduction, and I'm thrilled to have this opportunity to share a little bit about our story. So my name is Khaled. I come from Narea, the Western Galilee, from Israel, and I'm here to share the story of our hospital and the region that I come from. So basically what we're gonna talk about today is the Western Galilee, Israel, the location itself, the cultural mosaic that we have in Israel, and the cultural mosaic that we do have, especially in the Northern District in the Western Galilee. We'll talk about our hospital and what makes it special. We'll touch a little bit about the history of treating patients during the Second Lebanese War and during the Syrian Civil War. And we'll talk about October the 7th and what happened ever since in terms of hospitals and how things have changed. By the end, we'll touch a little bit about social cohesion. What does it mean to live in such a diverse community, especially during war, and how that has impact on our life. So as you can see, you know how small the country is back there in the Middle East, almost impossible to spot on the map. Still, it's there, it's beautiful, it's neighboring Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, and Egypt. And when we move on and see the country itself, where Narea is, where my hospital is, It's far north. It's 130 miles from Jerusalem, 85 miles from Tel Aviv, and 25 miles from Haifa. But maybe more importantly is how close it is to the Lebanese border. It's only 6 miles from the Lebanese border. It's so close that if you look outside the windows from the hospital, you would see the borders in themselves. This is a picture took from the oncology department, third floor, looking north, and you can see the Lebanese border. So the country itself, and that is based on the Israel Central Bureau of Statistics in 2024, it is 74% Jews and 21% Arabs, and the rest are a combination of immigrants and non-Arab Christians and residents who came from different religions. But why I'm talking about this is because of the special combination and mosaic that we have in the Galilee, in the Northern District, which is 50% Jews and 50% non-Jews. Most of them are Muslims, but a lot are Christians, Druze, Bedouin, and Lebanese refugees from the Second Lebanese War. My hospital is the largest employer in the Western Galilee, more than 3,200 employees and 300 volunteers, all reflecting that specific mosaic that we have in the community itself. And this picture is an actual picture from our hospital where you can see a young Muslim physician taking care of an elderly Jew. So when we talk about coexistence, which is a challenge by itself, because it means that members of different communities have to live side by side without trying to do what those in the picture are trying to do, which is take over each other. At its core, it is based on tolerance, recognition, and dignity. And we live in a special place, like in the North District, especially in the hospital, where we actually do that on a daily basis. You can see in a lot of special relations between Arabs and Jews from different backgrounds and different religions. They share businesses, and they even have a shared Arab-Jewish theater at Sasha, which is like 10 minutes drive from the hospital. And a lot of the colleges encourage this coexistence and diversity. And the medical center itself, we work side by side from all the backgrounds there is, and from this, and at the same time treating everyone with the same diversity. Together, we give the highest quality of medicine that we are able to do, despite the differences that we have in the background. So the hospital itself has quite a nice history. It started in 1948 only as a maternity hospital, a couple of barracks by the seashore. A couple of years later, it became a general government hospital. And by 2016, it is the tertiary hospital that it is today, a huge campus with more than 930 beds and 60,000 admissions annually. It's a huge campus this day. But what makes it special is the story about this man, Professor Shasha, who is the former CEO, where late in the 1990s, and at 1998, he said, let's go underground. Let's build an underground hospital. That was so revolutionary then that the press called him Mad Shasha, because he was just pouring money in the underground, building hospital not to be used ever. Like no one believed that this is ever going to be in need. But we're not the first to go underground. Like going underground goes into ancient history, like thousands and thousands of years ago. Like if we go 3,000 years before today, there was entire cities curved underground. This is a picture in Turkey, in Kapachita. I don't know how to pronounce that, sorry. So, and the same concept we share now, it's go underground to preserve life, to keep people alive during war. So since then, we've encountered a lot of events where people had to treat patients and to treat each other in the underground. Like, for instance, in Germany, the Hermann-Göring bunkers, and in London during World War II at the Charing Cross Tunnel. So we're talking about a tradition of resilience, how from ancient underground cities to modern underground hospital, with all sharing the same goal, is to protect life during crisis, whether as it was in the past, invasions and war, or as it is these days in modern conflict and disasters, it is the same resilience of treating people in times of crisis. So when you ever come by to our hospital, this is what you're going to see. You're going to see stairs down, going into doors that are very small, into a huge hospital in the underground with tunnels big enough to accommodate an actual ambulance. So they can just go in the underground and go out, with more than 450 protected hospitalized beds that are not in use. They're just there, but they're just there for a just in case. 450 protected beds in the underground with air purification system, and some departments are actually built to be bunkers in their natural position. For instance, the emergency department and a couple of operating rooms, they are bunkers. No windows, no nothing. You just go into a huge bunker with huge blast-proof walls, positive air pressure, airtight doors, and you just live and work your daily life in a bunker. In the underground, we also have a command room where everyone meets, like the CEO of the hospital, the staff of the hospital, the meta services like the ambulance services, the military come in, and the police services and the fire forces, they all meet there to run the show if there's anything going on, if there's any injuries, if there's any war, any rockets, or any whatever. And then there was war. The Second Lebanese War started, and it was a real. And as for us looking around from the hospital, we would see the Katyusas falling at a near proximity, near the hospital. Like, this is where the hospital is. Those are the places that were actually hit with rockets. There are some of the places that were actually hit with rockets during the Second Lebanese War. 800 rockets fell on Nariya, and more than 4,500 in the immediate area to the people that we treat. And casualties would be on the way. They would come in to the emergency department, and they would come in with whatever means available, that you could show up with their families, with healthcare providers, the EMS, and with the helicopters and the military. Everyone would bring the patients in to be treated in the hospital, and there we are by each bed, many teams treating each one of those coming in. But the most important part is this picture, where you look at the hospital and it's empty. Those are usually heavy wards with tons of patients and staff around. But during the wartime, that's how it looked. Everything was empty. Why? Because everyone was in the underground hospital. Pediatric shelters, hospital at work, regular medical wards, surgical wards, ICU, dialysis unit, all in the underground hospital. Above ground, it was empty. But not only the patients and the staff, but also their families, because we do believe that if there's anyone gonna leave home, come and help and treat during war, they had to make sure that their own family is safe. So they bring in their families. Everyone brought their children, their parents. Some would even bring in their pets. And the communities around would come in and help and aid and be with the children, playing around, doing homework, having school time, and sometimes just to lay down and rest. And then, almost 3 weeks after the war started, we got hit, direct hit, to the hospital at the 4th surgical wing. And that's how it looked from inside. Luckily, no one got hurt because we were all in the underground hall. During that 33 days of war, we had to treat more than 1,800 patients. Some of them are soldiers, but most of them were civilians, and a lot of acute stress reaction. But what was beautiful about it is we did it side by side. Throughout the 33 days of war, all the staff, reflecting the diversity that we have at the Western Galilee and at the Northern District, we work together side by side, treating everyone. It's the same that the missile would not differentiate what it's hitting and whom it's hitting. It's the same for us, the medical staff, and the social coherence that we have at the Western Galilee. Couple of years later, there was the Syrian civil war. The Syrian civil war was a disaster. It was described as the greatest humanitarian disaster over the past 2 decades, requiring the largest ever humanitarian appeal. That's by Antonio Guerrero and the UN. And according to the estimation, between 2013 and 2018, there was almost 500,000 people dying in Syria, and more than 12 million people displaced to different places from their houses, and a lot more were in need. The hospitals in Syria were damaged, severely damaged. Most of them could still operate, but they could not keep the patients after the operation. We would expect a patient after being in surgery to stay in a medical ward, in a surgical ward, in an intensive care unit, but they would just go home. The surgery, wake up, go home. Hopefully, the people that you have at home would be good enough to be able to treat you, which is a mission impossible. And those are hero physicians that were able to do that type of work. But then 2 years after that war started, we've had the first encounter where 7 injured civilians crossed the borders and just lay down on Israeli land. They were identified by the army. Army saw them, went there, started treating them, transferred them to our hospital, and they have all survived. But we understood that this is gonna happen, and it actually happened again and again. So since the borders are maybe an hour and a half drive from our hospital and any other hospital, we built up a field hospital at the Golan Heights. And we've had the basic equipment in the field hospital at the Golan Heights, and we were able to treat patients once they crossed the borders. And then the Red Cross started to cooperate, and the Red Cross would see the patients in the Syrian side, cross the borders, hand them over to the military and medics, and then to the Golan Heights Hospital. And from there, they would be transferred to other hospitals. And the patients would be brought in to our hospital, mainly with the IDF, with the military forces. More than 3,000 Syrian were treated in northern Israeli hospital. Most of them were treated at my hospital in the Galilee Medical Center. We were hoping that by this, those who ever came in seeking medical attention would be a bridge to building more coherent communities between the Israelis and the Syrian. And sending people home after being treated, that's a whole case. That's a whole issue. Like, for instance, this beautiful young lady, we had to send her home with stretchers and medications, but those had Hebrew writings on them. We cannot send a patient to Syria with a Hebrew writing on their equipment. So we had to import more equipment that does not have those Hebrew writings on them, because if they go back and they have any Hebrew writings, they would be killed just for the mere fact that they were seeking help from a foreign country and from Israel. Like, for them, they're running from one devil to another. So we had to accommodate and keep them. Why am I sharing these stories about the Syrian civil war? It's because this was the second time that we've used this underground hospital. The first time during the Second Lebanese War, the second time those patients come in from different countries, we also treated them using those 450 underground hospital beds. But then a couple of years later, almost 2 years ago, it was October the 7th in 2023. So now we're talking about a new era of threats. I'm gonna touch only the medical part of that threat and how hospitals change and how communities change during these times. So if we look at what happened on one hospital in the southern Israel, that particular hospital, October 7th, had to treat 673 patients within the first 24 hours, which is crazy. It's numbers beyond what any other hospital could ever treat. And if we look at the number of casualties arriving per hour, it's It's a lot. Like at the peak of 83 patients coming in at noon, they would come in at the same hour, 83 patients, while at that time there were more than 20 patients already being treated in the emergency department and the operating rooms. It's crazy. Those are numbers no hospital is equipped and ready to treat. But then we understood, okay, we know the history. Now we're going back to the north to the Galilee Medical Center. We know the history. We're a frontline hospital at the northern side of Israel with Lebanese quite close to us, couple of miles away. So we were facing immediate risk. And given the history that we know, we decided to go underground one more time. So we went underground October 7th, October 8th, and then 9th. By October the 10th, every department was in the underground hospital one more time. Not only that, after we've learned that it is possible to accept casualties in larger numbers than we would have expected, we decided to build up a new trauma bay. Like we've had one trauma bay enough to treat simultaneously 6 patients, so that might not be enough. So we built up a new one with 4 extra beds. So now a trauma bay of 10 beds, which was quite unfortunate that we actually had to use those rooms, but luckily we did that prior to the injured people arriving. And we've also built up a protected helipad, a second protected helipad to accept injured people coming in with helicopters. And since we know the care pathway of trauma, like this is what we do in a regular day, we treat trauma patients all over, but this time it was different because those who came seeking medical attention October the 7th, they've had long hours not being treated at the field with medical support they received only from their families and those that are by them, because the time from injury to starting evacuation into hospital took long hours. So we decided to train everyone. We started training everyone. We went out to the communities, to the ambulance services, to the military services, to everyone. We started training everyone how to treat a patient. And for the communities, we believe that you need to do 2 things. Like it's much enough if you could stop a bleed and keep a person breathing, and then someone comes in to help in. So that's the sort of training we gave to the communities. We went out to multiple communities in the north and starting training them. And also we went to the major ambulance services and to the military services, and we talked to them about how to treat a patient, and we had a great communication with them, which very important in terms of mass casualties, because I still do remember the first mass casualty that we've had after October the 7th. We've got at least 3 to 4 phone calls about the same mass casualty event, each with different information. So that is quite challenging for us as a hospital to prepare with misinformation. We need to bring people from home. We need to evacuate emergency department. We need to be prepared to accept patients. So this communication is crucial. So we've had them all. We sat together. We explained what we expect from them. We actually handed them a paper sheet I need to know 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's how you're going to communicate with me. But that was not all. We actually got them to come and be part of the team. We got them all in to train them in the trauma base. As you can see, we've done a lot of drills and trained a lot of medical providers, whether they are from the military or the ambulance companies, and they came into our hospital to treat and train in trauma patient care. During that time, and since war started, we had to treat more than 3,000 war-related injuries. Most of them in the militaries, but also civilians. Some are extreme, some are severe, some are mild. But going underground itself has its own challenges. Like, our hospital is a big hospital, more than 900 beds. And going to the underground, it's only 400 something beds. So we had to keep the hospital as empty as possible. And that by itself is a challenge. We managed to do that. We were sending people home. We had more staff in the emergency department. We had more senior physicians in the emergency department to aid with the decision making and sending people home. We've actually started a new service coordinated with the health insurance companies where we would send people to be hospitalized at their own home. Okay, like we would send a nurse and a physician to treat the patient at home because we don't have enough beds, but they do have their own bed at home. So if you're stable enough to sleep at your home, let's do that. So we coordinated this with the health insurance companies and we were hospitalizing patients at their own home. And also we would be sending patients after being treated to different hospitals. Again, we need to keep the hospital as empty as possible with a surge capacity to accept more and more injured patients coming in. We also had to think out of the box. We had to think about what could happen and what if all the measures that we're dealing with will not be sufficient. So we started talking about twin hospital concept, where, okay, we're a frontline hospital, we need to be as empty as possible. But if we coordinate and have a twin hospital to coordinate with, and we actually did that at one hospital at Haifa that did not have enough space in the underground. So that hospital would be evacuated to a different hospital that has enough space in the underground. So the staff at that hospital would come and join our team to be part of the team and help with the decision making and treating the injured people. We also had to think about a Long Island concept, which is one of the scariest things that any hospital could ever think of. You're disconnected from the world. You don't have any more electricity, no water coming in, no medication, no staff are able to come in. Whoever that in hospital are those that are able to continue and work, but the influx of patient would still come in. So we had to think about scenarios that, while they might seem far-fetched and unlikely, but still we had to build up protocols and be ready for every scenario that is possible. And when we're talking about the staff, us, the physicians, the healthcare providers, we believe that social cohesion is a key for us to keep moving on helping those patients. And so what is social cohesion? It's the glue that holds the diverse societies together. It's based on trust and shared values and being, regardless of whatever religious background you have, it's being together. And when we talk about interfaith and ethnic diversity, our hospital is one of the best examples on that. Like, all the staff reflecting the diversity of the communities still work together during multiple wars, during more wars that we would have hoped for anyone to endure. And why does it matter? Because once you do have this social cohesion, the communities are stronger. It's safer, it's more resilient, and it could stand a lot of stress and a lot of war-related factors. And the pathway to cohesion is quite obvious, and it starts with the basics. It starts with shared spaces, shared schools, shared hospitals, shared cultural concerts, shared theaters, shared everything. Once you do start with this is the path, and this is the right way to reach this social coherence. We need to encourage the dialogue and education, and we need to have equal access to opportunities for all the communities that are living together. And now I'm going to jump for a personal story about myself and about my beautiful wife. So Yeah, I say that even that when she's not here. So so myself, I am a Christian Arab, and I met Jasmine at med school first year, who is a Muslim Arab. And in the Middle East, especially in the small communities, getting married and interfaith marriage, it's a mission impossible. And we did that. It took us 6 to 7 years, but we were able to do that. And we got married and have those amazing 3 beautiful children. And we live in a special place in Nisamim, which is a 15 minutes drive from our hospital, still quite close to Lebanon. Nisamim is a village that is so special. It was founded in 1960s by Christians from Europe as after the Holocaust, as a sign of solidarity with the Jewish people. And the community, until this day, it is built on coexistence, dialogue, and peace. And it is actually the center of dialogue and peace in the Northern District. Its name, Nisamim, is the banner of nations. It's come from Isaiah 11:10. It's the banner of nations. And its symbol, where it has the 3 languages embedded in it, Nesamim in English and in Hebrew and in Arabic, it's comprised of a fish and wheat, where fish resembling life and continuity, and the wheat growth and harvest. All of those are sign of coexistence and social cohesion. And this is maybe one of the most beautiful pictures that we have. This is actually a picture from the statue at the temple that we have in Nisamim. It's a 1-room temple serving the 3 major religions in the area, that they use the same room, just different days. Okay, so that's for Christians, for Muslims, for Christians, and for Jews. They share the same temple, just different days. It's a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So this is one of the most beautiful symbols of peace. And again, about the medical center, that's what makes us special. This diversity in ethnicities and in backgrounds, living and working together on a daily basis. And the slogan that you can see almost at every door and every hallway in the hospital is Adam le Adam, Adam, which means a person to a person is merely another person, regardless of whatever background they come from. And in time of crisis, and especially in time of crisis, this cohesion can save lives. This is one of the saddest yet most beautiful stories that we've had during that war. For those of you who do not understand what's going on here, this is a CAT scan of some young male's head with a shrapnel just going through his skull into his brain. And a couple of days later, he was declared brain dead. Why am I bringing this up? Because after that, him and his family agreed to donate their heart. He was a Christian Arab from a village nearby, and he donated his heart to a Jew who lived in Area. So when we talk about social cohesion and coexistence, I don't know of any story that speaks of that more powerful than this one. So war reminds us we share destiny, and our shared destiny outweighs whatever divisions that we have. We go back a decade ago, where the former president Rivlin, he said that Israel is made out of those 4 tribes. Okay, the secular Jews, the national religious Jews, the ultra-Orthodox, the Haredi Jews, and the Arab citizens. And he said that with hopes that he could build the common Israeliness, regardless of whatever background or whatever tribe a person comes from. And actually, there were some and a lot of programs under the name of Israeli Hope created back then to impose and to project this in education, in sport, and in businesses, and in common life. Reality to this day, unfortunately, the separation still dominates. Okay, we're not in that place, not yet at least. Okay, conflict is often louder than the shared principle that we have. But we're only left with hopes for the future. We do hope and share the same prayers that let's embrace life, let's embrace diversity to build trust, and maybe our future would be much more better. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, and I'm happy to answer any questions if anyone would love to. Yes.
Well, I had the privilege 50-some years ago, 1971, have a public health service fellowship in Israel. So I was able to see the medical system really up close. And it really resonated with me how the Druze, the Arabs, the Israelis all work together, whether it was from Hadassah Hospital to the communities out to the little villages. So I appreciated what you were saying, that part of it's still alive.
Yes.
The one thing that it's just personal for me.
Sure.
I so think that we ought to be able to have a two-state solution in Israel with the West Bank. And I wonder if, because I don't want to get into the politics of it, but it seems the administration is throwing roadblocks there, building settlements, doing things to obstruct that. Is the general sense of the Israelis that they could live with a healthy two-state solution, minus the militants?
So I agree with the part that we're not going to get into politics. So with that said, I truly hope that those taking and making those decisions would come in at least for a couple of hours, maybe a week, into our hospital to see that this is possible. The thing that we're doing, which is sharing the same lives and the same tears, the same joys, and going home to the same families is possible. So whether it is a one state or two state or whatever number of states solution, as long as it is a solution with no one getting hurt, I'm happy about it. But I'm not gonna get into politics. Okay. Yeah. Go ahead.
So Hadassah, Israel.
Yeah.
I have to emphasize, it's not a question, but you finished your talk with saying how the 4 tribes of Rivlin didn't really work this far.
Yeah.
I agree, I absolutely agree. But I wish that Israel would have been like in a hospital. And it's the same I part of my school was in Nahariya, and both in Nahariya and in Hadassah, it is obviously, it's so beautiful to see how people work together. And I wish Israel would have looked like the way an Israeli hospital, Nahariya, Hadassah, looks like. That's just a small emphasis.
Thank you.
Well, first of all, thank you very much. It's an honor to hear what you've had to say. So you had told us about how you tried to reach the community to serve those who were injured or badly treated by war or whatever the cause. And you said just a moment ago about how you are a model that you were hoping others could see. So is there any effort being concentrated on the idea of prevention of the need for the hospital to bring to the outreach to the community to demonstrate what you do so that you could convince more people to live the lives that you folks live?
That is also a very hard question. For us, the medical professionals, while we do treat the injured, the same as it is with other illnesses, we try to promote prevention because the best cure for any disease is the vaccine. So let's do that. Let's prevent the disease from ever happening. When it comes to logic, to medicine, to research, we're there and we're happy to provide whatever information is available. But when it comes to politics and to war and to making decisions that are beyond reason, it's a little bit harder for us to influence. Still, we speak of peace. We try to promote that. But we're not the military, we're not the government, and we're not on the other side. So unfortunately, with war-related things, we're stuck at being merely physicians trying to help the injured, and our capability of preventing the injuries is not as we would have hoped it to be. With that said, we're sending some of the staff to be part of the teams outside of the hospital itself. Like, a lot of the staff at every hospital are in reserve duty in Miluim. So they would be part of the medical team treating the patients on the field prior to their transport to the hospital. This is not the same as preventing war, nor the same as preventing the injury itself, but this is what we have in power to do. Yeah.
So I've got the microphone. Then you can have it. So just turning inward, I mean, it's been a really tumultuous 3 years in Israel. And so you've talked about how beautifully your team works together and how you have such a level of social cohesion. Do you have to work at it? Or is it just that you're so dedicated to the work that you're doing? I mean, do you ever have groups? You ever have conversations about the larger situation in Israel and beyond its borders? Or how do you maintain social cohesion when there's so much, there's so much tearing Israel apart?
There is a lot of conflict. That's true. There's a lot of conflict in our everyday. Yet we work together regardless of whatever is happening around us. So we started working together years ago, before war, before the Second Lebanese War, before COVID, before this war, and not only before all those, but most importantly, maybe during all those conflicts. And we've shared the same tears and the same joys about the same events. Like, we're physicians, we're healthcare providers. We believe in life and we believe in joy, and that's what we try to promote. And whenever we're treating a patient, we treat them regardless of their background and regardless of what was the reason of the injury. We've had episodes treating multiple patients together where some of them come from different backgrounds, and actually the conflict between those what brought them into my department, like two persons shooting each other, and then we have to treat both of them at the same two beds next to each other. So we live that conflict. And after treating a severely injured person, whether a soldier or a civilian, and they're out of the trauma bay for their next stop, whether it is the ICU or operating room or whatever, the staff would share the same stress and the same cries, and you would see both the nurses, the Arab and the Jew, picking up the phone and calling their families, making sure that their sons and daughters are alive. Like, we share the same principles. So yes, we live the conflict. Yes, we do talk about it, but we talk about it in a manner that brings both together rather than bring them apart.
I want to give you a compliment to the hospital and all the doctors, really. I've been there many times, and I've been there when the Syrians were there. And I remember some people that we talked to, they did not want to go back.
Yeah.
They did not want to go back to Syria. And they were begging to stay there because you really treated them so well, so wonderful. So, kol hakavod.
Thank you. תודה רבה.
I'll be right with you, Bill. So this is a Partnership Together event. What does partnership do? It's a people-to-people connection. Look at this beautiful site. I am over the moon about this evening to see so many members of our Jewish community and our friends outside of the community. Thank you very much, Dr. Atalla. It's a pleasure to have you here. And I'm going to give the mic to my friend, Dr. Bill Gittin.
Thanks. Thank you for your presentation. I'm just curious, when you went through your medical training, was it if you use the word integrated, were you trained with, I mean, obviously you're an Arab Christian, your wife is a Muslim. Were you trained with Jewish individuals? I mean,
Yes.
the medical school?
Yes, the medical school in Haifa, the Technion Medical School.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the second follow-up question is, this seems remarkable to me what you guys are doing. Is this duplicated throughout the country, or is this rather unique?
So the unique part is that our hospital is the closest to any borders in Israel, so it's very close. Yet the need of underground hospital was obvious during the past decades. So now most of the hospitals in Israel do have this underground capabilities, but not as a hospital to be built straight from zero, but they took the underground parking lots. And during war, they would evacuate the cars, clean it up, and put beds instead of cars. For instance, at the Rambam Hospital, which has the largest ever underground hospital, they could accommodate more than 2,000 patients. So in Haifa, there are 3 major hospitals. 2 of them would evacuate into the underground hospital of Rambam's facilities. But it's different. It's not the same. It's not a hospital in the underground, but a parking lot transformed into being a hospital. And that holds also for Tel Aviv Hospital and for Hadassah and multiple other hospitals in the country.
It sounds like a very improvised. It's an improvisation with
Yeah.
the underground hospitals, but they have
Oxygen and everything. Yes. Yes.
Underground is just not used most of the time. It's
Yes.
not when you do it.
Mhm.
Thank you. Hi, we visited your medical center in 2018. I have an abiding interest in out-of-hospital cardiac arrests and have been working since 2017 to reduce mortality in St. Joe County. So I was interested when we were there to talking to the EMTs and your ER as well. But I really have a practical question. How do you in Israel and your hospital have a common electronic medical record system that translates from one hospital to the other?
Yes.
So that you can digitally get all your information?
Yes.
Yeah, we can't get that across a miles town in this.
No,
place. So
it's quite unique.
Yeah.
That we do have access to the medical record of whomever we're treating right now. It not only crosses to the other hospital, but even to the out of hospital services like his family physician and out clinics. So we do have access to all of those. Yeah.
So I just want to add, is this working?
Yes.
Yeah. Something important. I want to highlight your courage to be, as an Arab Israeli, to represent your country in this, because perhaps people, they don't know that you are, or they did not catch the fact that you are considered a living witness of the co-peace and co-living in Israel. And that witness, so many, unfortunately, many people, they don't want that witness to be alive. So I highly happy for your courage to speak up, and I appreciate what you're doing there in Israel. So thank you. Yeah.
We have time for one or two more questions.
You were keeping the beds, keeping the hospital empty.
Yes.
The question is, what patients went home and how was the decision made who went home and what they went home with? I mean, there must have been a lot of factors to decide who was good enough that you normally would have kept them, but you sent them home.
We dropped the hospitalization rate by almost 10%. Like prior to war, we would keep in hospital around 30% of those coming to the emergency department. And during the wartime, we went down to almost 20%. And it was not an easy job. It was sending more people home than we would have used to do. We usually did. But we did that with a lot of measures in mind. Like we've had more senior physicians working in the emergency department, more hours to aid with the decision making. We've had more services available as a part of the emergency department visit that we would usually do in hospital, but we now do it in the emergency department. For instance, we've had patients go into dialysis and then sent home after dialysis rather than keeping them in hospital. We had transfused multiple blood transfusion and then send them home regardless of keeping them in hospital. So we had to change the way we operate to make sure that we've got enough space for patients. We had to live with the fact that the hospital that was serving the same population had almost 1,000 beds, now has only 500 beds. So we had to accommodate. Otherwise, we could not survive. In the underground settings, we cannot keep a patient in the corridors, like near the rooms, which was possible above ground. Okay, you don't have enough beds in one ward. Okay, let's keep the patient outside a room for a couple of hours until something comes up and there's a bed for them. In the underground hospital, it's impossible. Like if it's a 450 beds, that's 450 patients. No place for the 451 because it would block the whole hallways. So we had to do with the measures that were available. So we were sending people home. We did follow up on those. One of the things that we were following up on is the 48-hour return rate. Because if we're sending people home that we shouldn't have, they're likely to come back. So that rate did not change during the whole period, which reflects that still did something good. Yeah.
We have a couple of questions on Zoom.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
So Rabbi Michael Friedman asks, can everybody hear me? Okay.
How is Israel today regarding budgeting for health needs? In the US, the government is cutting money for medical needs. What is Israel's attitude, especially given this unending war?
So now we're drifting back to a little bit more politics and what is happening financially in the country. And yes, we've been in war in 2 years, and it has its impact on the economy as a country, the whole country. And us, the medical teams, we do see cutbacks. We do have less money available, but we're trying to do our best. Like I'm glad that I'm not part of that decision making. I'm glad that I'm still physician treating the patients. Maybe if you ask the CEO of the hospital the same question, he would have different pain than what I have. But as a head of one department, I just cry for help to my CEO, and he does his best crying for help from the ministry and from the government. So my go-to has not changed. I talk to my CEO and he does his magic, and then whatever I ask appears what he does behind walls, closed doors, I don't know. Yeah. That's it. Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Don't go anywhere.
Okay.
Okay, a couple announcements before we give a token of our appreciation to our guests. So first of all, a couple more thank yous. Thank you to Steve Lauder for all the good work he does, both in advertising and running tech support, and to our South Bend police officers outside for keeping us safe. Say thank you to them. And thank you all for coming. You know, Dr. Atalla talked about social cohesion. Well, we have social cohesion here tonight with members of our Jewish community, Sunnyside Presbyterian, the Catholic community through Forever Learning. So thank you all for coming. Now, Dr. Yasmin, Dr. Jasmine, who we now call Dr. J, and Dr. Atalla. We have a small token of our appreciation from South Bend Chocolate for your trip to Canton. And we have two, so you don't have to fight over the chocolate. I want to say that it's been a special honor to host you. So in Hebrew, there is a phrase that describes the work you do and the life you live. It's called Avodat Kodesh, sacred work. So thank you for all you do. Please join us for the reception outside.